Good evening, everyone.
Welcome to the chat with your hosts, Anastasia
And Kylea Palmer.
This week, soldier Odysseus has returned from his 20-year Odyssey after speaking with Odysseus himself, reporting his side of the story.
After many hardships and tough decisions such as Cyclops and Giants, in choosing whether to pass by the den of Scylla where she yaps abominably and newborn whelps cry though she is huge and monstrous, or sail through the impossible, prowling rocks or drifters, Odysseus arrived home yesterday, but he wasn't overjoyed with what he found.
Upon the arrival to Ithaca, Odysseus disguised himself as a beggar and visits the place. Instead of finding his wife Penelope at home with their son Telemachus, he found more than 100 suitors who, believing Odysseus is dead, want to marry Penelope and take over his fortune. In our news update, we discuss Odysseus in this story.
Odysseus tries to come up with a plan with his two most loyal servants and had a tearful reunion with his son Telemachus.
This plan consists of removing the suitors' weapons from the hall and tell the women to lock their own door tight and run to the outer gate and lock it.
The plan works, and Odysseus' battle with the suitors start. Every arrow he shot brought down his huddling enemies. Eventually, the battle with suitors came to an end.
It was time for Odysseus to reunite with Penelope, and Athena lent him beauty head to foot, and they finally came together after 20 years. We know Odysseus leaving to fight in the Trojan War and never returning home, so what we thought.
But now we know, from his point of view, we know that the strong winds blew him and his crew off course.
One story he tells us takes us to the land of the Cyclops.
There, Odysseus and his crew go to explore the Cyclops' cave, while took his flocks to graze a field. Odysseus tells us that they entered the cave bearing gifts and says,
Words from Odysseus are, I had a goat skin full of that sweet liquor that Eurystheus' son Marin had given me. He says they expected kindness in return, but were met with the opposite, and the Cyclops immediately grabbed two men and dismembered them and made them his meal.
Odysseus' first reaction was to stab the Cyclops, but he soon realizes that the door was blocked and tells us, Odysseus' state, if we killed him, we perish there as well, for we could never move in ponderous doorway.
He then replans his way to escape.
The first thing Odysseus does is get the Cyclops drunk. He says the Cyclops was drunk, hiccuping and dribbling streams of liquor and bites off men. He then sees the pike of Isle of Green, though it had been reddened and glowed as if about to catch, and chopped out a section and sharpened it to make a stake with a pointed end. Then he takes the stake, spins it in the groove.
He recounts that blood ran out around the red-hot bar, eyelid and lash were seared, pierced ball hissed, boiling, and the roots popped out.
Odysseus used his gill, which he is well known for, and responded by saying, My name is Nobody.
This way, when the other Cyclops asked who's tricked and ruined him, he replied, Nobody's tricked me, nobody's ruined me. This made others think that nobody had wronged him.
The lone ship then sails to Aeneas, home of the goddess Circe, considered by many to be a witch. There Odysseus spends 1 year in Circe's flawless bed of love, because Odysseus says, being a man, I could not help but consenting.
However, when he and his men wish to leave, Circe tells them that they must travel to the underworld.
At this, hearing Odysseus has no desire to see daylight anymore.
After visiting the underworld, he finds out, and him and his crew are going to have to face more challenges on the way back to Ithaca.
Circe warns them that in the ship pass their sirens and the youths their crying duty to bewitch men. The crew pulls their ears and passes them the sirens.
They are met with larger problems. They had two options. They could either pass the den of Scylla or whirlpool of Charybdis is a monstrous creature. Her legs, there are 12 of them, great tentacles unjointed, and upon her serpent neck are borne 6 heads.
If Odysseus and his crew were to pass Scylla, she would eat 1 man for each gullet, for a total of 6 men, but the idea of Charybdis wasn't any better.
His recounting of the story, Odysseus and his crew chose to pass by Scylla.
Odysseus says Scylla made her strike, whisking 6 of my best men from the ship.
Odysseus tries to persuade his men to bypass
Thrynacia? He and the remaining men then visit Thrymnicia, the island where Helios. He warns his men not to touch the cattle, but his men ignore his warning.
This disobedience angers the sun god and appeases him. Zeus sends down a thunderbolt to sink Odysseus' ship.
Odysseus alone survives his attack and eventually drifts to Ogygia, the home of Calypso. Calypso keeps him on her island for 7 years.
That's all we got from Odysseus and his crew.
For the rest of the story, you'll have to come next time.